This is I'd like to call this meeting to order, please, and would like to welcome everyone to this public meeting of the Peel District School Board. As you are able, please stand with us for the land acknowledgement and our national anthem.
To acknowledge
that we are here today
on the traditional territory
of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation.
Nous tenons à reconnaître que
nous sommes sur le territoire traditionnel
des Mississaugas de la
Première Nation de Credit.
Thank you, everyone. So we have a very busy agenda this evening. It's what happens when you get a break and March break and then have lots of work to catch up to. But that is our job, and we will do it tonight. We have there are no regrets or late arrivals. We have some changes to our original agenda. Trustees, the blue sheet in front of you would indicate this. At 9.4, we've added recommendations of the Audit Committee from March 21st. 9.5 will be a statement about the ministry announcements update and as an oral report. 9.5 and 9.6 on the current agenda will move down one. 9.8 is recommendations of the Human Resources and Negotiations Advisory Committee open session, which we just held on March 25th. Trustee DeCroo, will you move the agenda as amended? Thank you. Trustee Crocker, will you second this? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item 1.1 is a special presentation to recognize the winners of the 2017-2018 Premiers Accepting Schools Award. A little bit of history before we get to see and recognize our award winners. The Premier's Awards for Accepting Schools recognizes safe and accepting school teams across the province who have done exceptional and innovative work in creating a safe, inclusive, and accepting environment. In Peel, these teams are called Climate for Learning and Working Teams. Peel has a long and consistent record of schools being nominated and winning this award. Annually, in the province of Ontario, only 10 schools receive the Premier's Award for Accepting Schools, and this past year, we had 11 schools nominated and 3 schools win the award. Go like this. This means we in the Peel District School Board have captured 30% of the province ourselves, an outstanding accomplishment that makes us Peel proud. However, let's focus on the schools who have been named as award recipients. Tonight, we will honor the 3 schools who won the award. We would ask trustees and superintendents to be ready to come and present the plaques to our winners upon the direction of Superintendent Mark Harmon, who will introduce the teams. Superintendent Harmon. And Kelly Krug, our climate. Sorry, go ahead. You can introduce.
are nominating the province of Ontario for this very prestigious award. The nomination and application process is an extensive exercise requiring great time and great effort. All of the schools here tonight have demonstrated a commitment for climate, for learning and working that is truly exceptional. When schools focus on building a positive and inclusive climate, focused on well-being, both staff and students benefit, your dedication to creating and maintaining a positive climate each day inspires success, confidence, and hope in every student. And that certainly is a congratulations for the 3 schools that are here today, as well as those schools that are joining us or will be receiving awards having come forward and put in an application for this year. The way this will work, we will now call each of the schools up individually to receive a plaque and have a picture taken. I'm going to ask Chair Cameron if he could please approach the podium to help with the presentation of all 3 plaques. And I would also start by calling Superintendent Nina Jaiswal and Trustee Brad McDonald to help with the first presentation here tonight. You got it there?
Yeah, it's just that we're not on the slideshow.
Okay. So our first winner here today is Clarkson Secondary School, who has focused its efforts on school well-being. The socioeconomic background of Clarkson students presents an ongoing challenge, especially since many of the students' families struggle financially. This school has a much higher score, approximately 3.3, on the Social Risk Index, SRI, for elementary and secondary schools than any of the other neighboring schools, an example being a neighboring high school that is around 1.37. The school has supported students with a breakfast program and a loan program for technological devices. Staff at the school are distinguished by their commitment to volunteer for programs and activities designed to help disadvantaged students. Examples of this commitment are many and are shown by initiatives such as Chargers and Charge Day, Mental Health Week, and purposeful mindfulness practices. Clarkson created a mindfulness space that is used by students and staff and for school-wide activities such as yoga workshops and lunchtime Mindful Mondays. In addition, 4 staff have been trained to teach wellness skills such as mindfulness as part of the grade 9 health and physical education curriculum. So with that, I'm going to congratulate Principal Mary Zamet and Clarkson Secondary School in winning the Premier Award for accepting schools, and we will invite the Clarkson team up at this point in time.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Excellent students. Hey, you're the ones that doing the work.
Can you take a picture? Okay, yes.
Okay, Lindsay, one photo bomb picture? No, one photo bomb picture? Thank you. Sorry, for my collection. Congratulations, guys. Well done. Well done, guys. So stand, you stay up here. Okay. Next, I'd like to call Superintendent Dana Sheehan and Trustee David Green to help present the next award. So this award will be for Glendale Public School. Glendale Public School serves a diverse population that includes families who have settled in the area for years, as well as those who are very new to Canada. Considering the varied multicultural home environments of the student population, Glendale has created an inclusive environment that represents its diverse student voice. The community is also relatively high in the Social Risk Index. The school has worked to create a safe and accepting school climate to overcome these obstacles and achieve greater student success. To reach this goal, the school has undertaken specific initiatives that include the explicit teaching and celebration of the Peel School Board character attributes, initiatives to assist students with self-regulation, and a learning partnership to foster a strong sense of teamwork and community. Glendale partnered with the City of Brampton and Credit Valley Conservation Authority to create a character garden. The garden addresses some stormwater retrofit concerns on the school playground, supports eco-school programming, and serves as a symbol of the school's continued commitment to building a positive school climate. The character garden demonstrates a safe and accepting school environment and highlights the important role that students play in environmental stewardship. Congratulations to Principal Tara Day Orshikowski and Glendale Public School in winning the Premier's Award for Accepting Schools. And with the team from Glendale, come on down.
Keep moving my mouse, because your notes are on top of the computer.
Somebody else hold this because you. I'm gonna go the other side. Yeah, let's squeeze it.
Where are we looking?
Way to go, guys. The little dynamic school in the village.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Well done, guys.
You want to hit the clicker? So next up, I will call Superintendent Lawrence Demare, trustees Brad McDonald, Noka DeKroob, and Robert Crocker to join us for the presentation of the next award. So this award is for John Fraser Secondary School. John Fraser serves Erin Mills, one of the fastest growing parts of Mississauga. A wave of new immigration and housing developments has resulted in a rapid increase in the school's enrollment. This rapid population growth has had some profound effects on the school the last 2 years, including an increase in various behavioral concerns. The school has also seen a significant increase in the number of English as a second language students. Families continue to exert pressure on their children to do well in school, and there has been a major increase in student mental health issues, including anxiety and depression. The school has responded to these growth challenges with several initiatives, including an intentional focus on creating a positive space with the Gay Straight Alliance to build inclusion, a community collaborative with Erin Mills Connects to provide supports and resources to connect youth to their caregivers in the local community, and a robust peer mentoring program. The peer mentoring program offers training to students in basic counseling and active listening skills to support and help at-risk students with problem solving and goal setting. The peer mentors also help with new student orientation, lunches for newcomers, and organizing bullying prevention and mental health awareness weeks. They also offer exam jams to support study skills and stress management strategies. So with that, congratulations to Principal Mary Nanavati, and I invite the John Fraser Secondary School team to come up and accept their Premier's Award for Accepting Schools.
Get in the middle. Get in. Sure. Yes, a little bit.
Okay. Like always.
So with that, I just want to offer many thanks and our sincere congratulations to all the winners and other schools that did apply for the award. The Premier's Accepting School Award has currently not been continued with the change in government. However, we are going to look to celebrate the success of our schools in other meaningful ways internally through our Climate for Learning and Working department. And I do want to obviously acknowledge that team as well. As I said, we have our coordinator, Kelly Krug, behind us. We have two other team members here today, Sima Chowdhury and Lindsay Watson, and another member, Antonella, is not available to be with us tonight. But again, great work from these four folks going forward. And we do want to announce at this time that we will likely proceed with a replacement award. Our working title right now is Mark and Kelly's Safe and Accepting Schools Award, but I have a feeling we may have to go off of that working title. But the good news is we are planning on replacing this award with something internal to, again, to celebrate the wonderful climate in our schools. So with that, thank you, and we'll carry on.
Thank you. You saying a few words?
No.
No, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Team Climate. What a wonderful celebration of children, staff, leaders in our schools. If this award was continued, we'd have the same pattern next year and the year after that and the year after that. One of my favorite sayings from my graduate degree studies in education is this: early to bed, early to rise, work like heck, then advertise. Tell the world how good your students are. Tell the world how good your teachers are. Tell the world how good your staff are, and let them hear it with pride. That's just my favorite, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue now. On to item 2. Item 2 is a declaration of conflict of interest. Is there anyone other than me? Seriously, I'm declaring a conflict of interest. I declare myself in a conflict of interest for item 9.7 on the agenda. The reason for my declaration is that I have an immediate family member who is a teacher in our board. When we get to item 9.7 in the agenda, I will step back from the chair's position and relinquish it to Vice Chair Lawton to chair that motion. Now moving on to section 3, which is the minutes. Section 3.1 is the minutes of the Special Education Advisory Committee meeting on February the 19th. 3.2 is the minutes of the regular meeting of the board on February 26th. 3.3 is the minutes of the Physical Planning and Building Committee meeting on March 5th. Trustee Green, will you put them on the floor?
Sure.
Thank you. Trustee Marchant, will you second them? Thank you. They are here for our receipt and approval. Are there any questions or comments regarding any of those 3 sets of minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 4, are there any written questions from trustees? Yes, Trustee DeCroo. Okay, so we'll go to Trustee Marchant.
Sorry, that's for later actually as well, Chair.
Okay, this is written questions from trustees, right?
Me, yeah. I've got a, sorry, Chair. I have a question that I've summarized on behalf of a parent. The parent expressed some concerns to me around the ability to come into the school and act as a coach and in lieu of a teacher being there. The parent recognized the great work our teachers do in providing extracurricular supervision and activities. But in many of our schools, there are so many activities that there just can't possibly be enough teachers to supervise them all. So they'd ask, is there a system of certification and verification for community coaches to come into our schools? If not, could we create one? And then I'd like to ask what the implications would be for the board, both financially, from a policy aspect, and from a liability point of view. And can we ask the board staff to do a jurisdictional scan to see what else is being done elsewhere to support students in having a wide variety of extracurricular activities where teachers aren't available or don't have the particular coaching skills or skills to run the certain group?
Thank you. I counted 4 questions there, so if you have them written, which is what this is about, if you would hand them over, please, to Executive Assistant Baptiste, we will seek an answer if administration can do that in 2 weeks' time when we meet on Tuesday, April the 9th next. I'm moving to item 5. Are there any notices of motion or petitions from trustees? Trustee DeCrube.
Thank you, Chair. I have a notice of motion, and I'm just going to read it. Whereas the Government of Ontario already recognizes and celebrates Islamic Heritage Month, Hindu Heritage Month, Sikh Heritage Month, and Jewish Heritage Month. Whereas there's a growing sense of intolerance in our community and around the world, and we have a crucial role and responsibility in the education sector to help create a world that is balanced and fair. Whereas our board is committed to equity and inclusion, and this would help foster a climate of understanding within our schools and help reflect student identity. Be it resolved that the Peel District School Board begin to recognize and celebrate Islamic Heritage Month in October, Hindu Heritage Month in November, Sikh Heritage Month in April, and Jewish Heritage Month in May. Be it further resolved that this recognition be reflected in the curriculum and include meaningful learning for students.
Thank you, Trustee DeCrube, and thank you for the notice that does allow administration and your colleagues 2 weeks to seek some answers ourselves as well if we have any questions. So that is a notice of motion. Are there any others? Yes, Trustee Crocker.
Thank you, Chair. I am in receipt this evening of petitions. Here they are. They're going to be on your desk in a moment.
Thank you.
I will read you the petition. Petition to the Peel District School Board, Board of Trustees. Whereas Trustee Robert Crocker, Mississauga Wards 6 and 11, gave the PDSB Board of Trustees notice of the following motion at the regular meeting of the Board on Tuesday, February 26, 2019. Be it resolved that Peel District School Board revise Policy 39, Transportation, Clause 6, with the addition of, when all buses are canceled due to inclement weather, all PDSB schools and offices will be closed. When buses are canceled in some areas due to inclement weather, PDSB schools and offices in those areas will be closed. The petition goes on to say, Chair, and whereas the safety and security of all members of the school community, students, parents, and staff is of utmost importance, and whereas the Peel District School Board has a responsibility to do everything it can to promote the safety and security of all members of the school community, we, the undersigned members of the PETL, OSSTF D19, CUPE 2544, CUPE 1628, ERFP, and OPSU 292, express our support for Trustee Crocker's motion and urge the PDSB Board of Trustees to adopt it at the regular meeting of the Board on Monday, March 25th, 2019. As I say, Chair, these just came to me this evening. I was aware that OSSTF and the elementary teachers would have petitions for me. In addition to those, I have, it looks like about 100 signatures from the ERFPs, for which I'm thankful. There are 83 from the CUPE locals. There are 1,219 from OSSTF, and in addition, they've got 29 from other units that came their way. And I have a total of 3,136 signed petitions from the Elementary Teachers Federation in Peel. Chair, those will be our gift to you.
Thank you. Could I ask you to actually drop them off at Executive Assistant Baptiste's desk? Because that's where we will have this central collection. And just for everyone in the room to make sure we connect the dots, Trustee Crocker's motion is coming before the board as item 9.7 shortly, and that's what these petitions are in reference to. So thank you, Trustee Crocker. Are there any other notices of motions or petitions? Seeing none. Do we need no, we don't need to move that. Thank you. Item 6, moving on to item 6, is a special section for receipt. 6.1 is a list of retirements. 6.2 is the good news regarding the Innovative Business Education Teacher Award and recipient. Trustee Benjamin, will you move this item? Thank you. And Trustee Davies, will you second it? Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Trustee Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to recognize, I just want to speak to 6.2. As you can see here, Innovation, Business, and Education Teacher Award. And teacher at one of the school that I represent, David Suzuki Secondary School, is receiving this award. And I believe that this is an exceptional award. And when one of our own teacher can step out and do some creative and innovative stuff, that they can be recognized in terms of the work that they're doing. I think that is extraordinary and they need to be recognized. So I personally want to congratulate Jessica and winning this award. And I personally look forward in going to the school and congratulate her myself. I know David Suzuki is one of the schools that is on the move in terms of some great stuff that has been happening. So again, I want to say congratulations, and I look forward to coming over to the school sometime next week and personally congratulate you and win this award. Thank you.
Thank you. Another example of early to bed, early to rise, and tell the world how good our staff are. Moving on to, no, so we have moved and seconded this, and we've had some comments. Any others? Seeing none. All in favor? Thank you. Item 9 is new business, and we need to take these items individually. 9.1 are the recommendations of the Special Education Advisory Committee on February 19th. There are no recommendations for the board. They are information items here for our receipt. Vice Chair Lawton, will you move these minutes? Thank you. Trustee Kay McDonald, will you second them? Thank you. And are there any questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. 9.2 are the recommendations of the Physical Planning and Building Committee meeting on March the 5th. There is one recommendation for the board, that the Accessibility Plan Status Report for 2018 on the multi-year accessibility plan for the Peel District School Board from January 2015 to December 2018 be approved. Trustee Sohi, will you move these minutes? Yep. Thank you. And Trustee Green, will you second them? Sure. Thank you. They are a recommendation and information items for our receipt and approval. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. 9.4 is a recommendation of the Audit Committee from March 21st, 2019. Vice Chair Lawton, will you move these? And Trustee Davies, will you second it? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Seeing none. All in favor? Carried. Excuse me. 9.5 is one of the added items that we approved the amended approval with. It's a ministry announcement update, and I will share some thoughts from the board. As you all know, over the March break, the Ministry of Education announced a number of changes to education in Ontario related to class size changes, e-learning, special education funding and autism, health and physical education curriculum, math curriculum, funding cuts. As a board, we have always been and will continue to be focused on inspiring success, confidence, and hope in each student, while meeting the diverse needs of students in their communities. We believe the changes announced by the ministry will hinder our ability to continue to provide the high-quality education Peel students deserve. As trustees, we are proud of the work done in Peel schools and work sites each day. Life-changing work by caring adults, staff, and volunteers who look to us for support. The support we provide must be rich and meaningful. Put simply, we cannot support all of our learners if funding cuts are deep, resources are stretched, and staff are burdened with heavy loads and worry. Worry that they will not be able to provide the level of support needed to ensure all students are successful and cared for. To help the ministry understand what works for us, Peel Board students, staff, and families, and the communities we serve, I would like to propose that the board writes a letter to the Minister of Education to share our concerns about the changes and the impact they will have in our school communities, and to ask for an opportunity for the board to meet with the minister. We don't have to move this or second it, but I'd like to offer it up for comment. Would any trustees, yes, Trustee Green?
Mr. Chair, I am definitely, as I would have alluded sometime this week in email, in support of writing a letter. And not only just writing a letter, because it seems that the agenda of this present government and ministry is not, I have no intention to speak to the people who actually know this business best, which is school board staff, teachers, trustees, administration. They're just moving about and doing whatever they feel like they want to do, or I don't know what the agenda is. However, what I can see over the last couple of weeks, everything that is happening is going to hurt our student. It's not going to help our student in any way whatsoever. The impact, when you talk about even the class size matter, because the very fact that when you look at the high school level, we don't have two person in the class. We got one person. We talk about safety. We talk about water down of support for the students within the classroom. So I don't have any. I cannot put my head around it. What it is this ministry thinking? When we talk about those students with autism, that they're cutting funding from and taking and saying, oh, we're going to provide training. These are kids that are vulnerable. They need special support. And taking away from that and saying that we're going to do better, please, I just can't understand it, and I'm definitely in support. And as I said earlier on today, I want more than just us writing a letter. I want us to start a campaign. I want staff, I'm asking staff to bring back an outline of impact that this will have on our school board and the detriment to our students. I want that to come back to us, because I want to use that letter as part of my campaign to go to every MPP office. I want that to go to every parents in Peel, Brampton, Mississauga, Caledon, because parents needs to know the impact, because many, many parents out there do not know the impact and what is going to happen to their kids and the support that has been taken away from their kids, and even how that is going to impact our graduation rate. So please, if we can get this letter as soon as possible, I want to start the campaign, not yesterday, not tomorrow. I want to start the campaign now, because somebody needs to stand up and start pushing back. Somebody needs to start fighting for our most vulnerable and marginalized students, and even our students that are bright students that are doing well. I think we as an elected official, we're here to advocate on behalf of students, and we need to start doing that. And we need to make our voice loud and clear. And this government needs to know that we're not going to sit back and just roll over and play dead. No, we're going to speak up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Trustee DeCroop?
Thank you, Chair Cameron. I absolutely support the writing of a letter, and I would like to add my voice to what Trustee Green had just recommended, that we also embark on a campaign to send letters, to invite, like you said, the minister to come meet with us. I think it's really important for us to recognize that our role is here as a school board is to ensure the standard of good quality education in the region, good quality public education specifically. And an increase in class sizes will absolutely have a negative impact on that. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, education is not about the bottom line, it's about the future of a generation, and this government does not seem to believe that, unfortunately. So we need to band together and work together in order to get the message out there that this will impact our students negatively, and it will impact the quality of the education that we are providing, which really should be the number one priority of any government of the day.
Thank you. Trustee Crocker?
Thank you, Chair. Trustees Green and DeCrube have urged that we engage in a campaign. I'm in support of a united front, pushing the education of the public about our concerns. Our natural allies in this are among the audience tonight, to my left. Let's work with them. Separately, I'm very much in support of letters to the Premier, to Minister Thompson, to Minister MacLeod and others, and distributed widely. I support making these communications as detailed as you like, but in this age of the soundbite, I'd like to see a powerful bite back in our message. That is that budget cuts will do nothing to help us deliver the quality education Peel students deserve. That staffing cuts will do nothing to help us deliver the quality education that Peel students deserve. That increasing class sizes will do nothing to help us deliver the quality education that Peel students deserve. Budget cuts, staffing cuts, increasing class sizes will do nothing but hurt Peel students.
Thank you. Trustee Marchant?
Yeah, certainly to echo my three companions up here as well. I would also like to add that we stress the need for meaningful consultation. I don't think this board has been reasonably consulted in where and how to look for savings if savings must be found. I don't think the unions have been meaningfully consulted, and I sure don't think the parents have been meaningfully consulted. Setting up a snitch line is not a valid way to get consultation from the public. So I'd really like to stress in that letter that we invite the minister here, but also that we invite our parents and our voters and our students, our two trustees, certainly great shining examples there as well, so that they too can have their voice echoed through us, because I think that is our role, is to take their voice and amplify it for them. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Trustee Benjamin?
Through you, Chair, I too echo all the sentiments expressed by the previous trustees. I would like to add that we need to get all the parents on board. We know we have all the unions and the teacher organizations, but we need to get the parents on board too, and they will make, we have to convince them that they need to come forward and make a loud noise, and this information can go out through the newsletters if it's possible, or in some other way we need to get all the parents on board. Only then can we make a big impact against this government. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Sohi?
Through you, Chair, as all my other trustees said that they're okay with sending all that loud messages, my recommendation is if we can in each city have a town hall and invite the parents, and that will be a loud and clear message to the government that parents are with us.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Thank you, everyone, for your input. And the director and his staff have been taking notes as to what it is that we would like to say and what voice we want to carry and how we want to do it. And we'll see how we can pull this letter together very soon. The director did whisper to me that, in fact, that item needed to be moved and seconded, so apologies that it's retrospective, but I'll get some of the help from the speakers. Trustee Green will move it. Trustee DeCrube, will you second it? Of course. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item 9.6 are the second quarterly financial reports as at February 28th, 2019. And they are here for our receipt. Trustee Andrews, will you put them on the floor? Thank you. And Trustee B. McDonald, will you second it? Thanks. Let's just open this up. Are there any questions or comments from trustees regarding this quarterly financial report? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. 9.7 is a notice of motion from Trustee Crocker. And with my earlier declaration of my conflict of interest for this item, I will now step back and ask Vice Chair Lawton to chair this item. We just give us a second as we switch seats here.
Thank you, Chair Cameron. Agenda item 9.7. Trustee Crocker, will you put your motion on the floor? Read it for us.
Thank you, Chair Lawton. My motion, which you've already heard once tonight, reads as follows. Be it resolved that Peel District School Board revise Policy 39, Transportation, Clause 6, with the addition of, when all buses are canceled due to inclement weather, all Peel District School Board schools and offices will be closed. When buses are canceled in some areas due to inclement weather, Peel District School Board schools and offices in those areas will be closed. And may I speak to the motion, Chair?
Do you have a seconder, Trustee Crocker?
Trustee DeCrube?
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Student safety is our number one concern at the Peel District School Board. On that, we can all agree. So it is that on days when Environment Canada tells us that the roads are unsafe due to inclement weather, we cancel the buses, for no other reason than the safety of the kids. The consequence of this is that families are thrown into confusion. Parents wonder if it's safe for them to go to work themselves. After all, there have been clear messages in the media that if you don't absolutely have to travel, then please stay off the roads for your own safety and that of others. And what do we do with the little ones? The perhaps unintended further consequence of bus cancellations is that since, illogically, schools often remain open, parents put the kids in the car and drop them off at school, their vehicles adding to the general traffic chaos on a stormy day. Other parents keep their kids at home. Some will go to work themselves anyway, with a Plan B childcare solution. An elder sibling, grandparents, a reliable friend. The same Plan B instituted on PD days, non-statutory holidays, or in the event of a family illness. And of course, working from home is not the euphemism it once was. In fact, it's a viable option for many working people in the 21st century. It varies, of course, by community and circumstance, but it would not be unusual to see a third to a half or more students absent on snow days. So while extra help may be given, there will be no fresh instruction which will not have to be retaught when the rest of the class is in attendance. It would be my personal observation and experience that student expectations on these days are that they will not be required to do anything. Teachers and support staff are often relegated to babysitting roles. Staff are expected to come to work, even though student transportation is canceled due to safety concerns, putting their cars on the road against the advice of Environment Canada, and, again, adding to the general traffic chaos on a stormy day. With the exception of those enrolled in special programs, the vast majority of kids in urban areas live quite close to their schools. This is certainly true of elementary schools, although our transportation thresholds are so low that many of the younger kids do qualify for busing. A sample of secondary schools in my own area reveals, and this is just a sample, John Fraser Secondary has 32 out of 1,660 students who qualify for busing. Meadowvale Secondary has 23 out of a student population of over 1,000. Rick Hansen Secondary has 19 bus students out of over 1,700 students, all in special programs. Streetsville Secondary has 40 bused kids out of somewhat less than 900. Again, all in special programs. It should be noted, however, that there is a large French immersion contingent at this school, many of whom, while they don't qualify for busing, do have to travel long distances. This would be true of many students at other schools enrolled in regional and special programs across Peel. Canceling buses while leaving the schools open presents families with a perplexing problem. Do we drive our kids to school, adding again even more vehicles to the general traffic chaos on a stormy day, despite the uncertainty as to whether they will find any meaningful instruction when they arrive? Regardless, it would appear that snow day translates to no school for appreciable numbers of students. Trust me, however, when I insist that teachers and education workers do not see snow days as holidays. The work of education remains to be completed in any case, and they would much rather forgo the stress and uncertainty as they begin these days than have what appears to others as a free day. It's true that teachers and other education workers don't necessarily live very close to their workplace. Please don't argue that that's their fault and that they should live closer to their schools. It's none of anyone's business where they live. But family considerations, like a spouse who works in another community, or elder care, as another example, may be determining factors. And we don't pay our employees enough to purchase a home in Peel. A teaching couple at max could afford it, sure. But a young teacher just starting out, no way. EAs, office and custodial staff, even less so. Don't blame them for living in Cambridge, or Guelph, or Hamilton, where housing is more affordable. My first school in Peel was Streetsville Secondary School, and I rented an apartment nearby. When I was deemed surplus to requirements, the job the board found me was at the Humberview School in distant Bolton. There was no school further away. I recall driving there on snow days and wondering why on earth I bothered when there were no kids to teach anyway. So if you're an employee of the Peel District School Board, what's the message on these days? The answer, it appears, is that while student safety trumps all other considerations, to the point that we take the buses off those dangerous roads, we don't mind forcing that decision onto the families, and we certainly don't seem to mind imperiling the lives of our employees. Why is the safety of education workers not as important as that of the children they serve?
Thank you, Trustee Crocker. Comments and questions. I have Trustee DeCrube and then Trustee Davies.
Thank you. So I seconded this motion because we wanted to have the debate, and I knew how important it was to my colleague and to a lot of people who I knew would be in the audience today. But I do have some concerns. A lot of people, most people, are actually not teachers and don't work in education. Many people, including myself, still have to get to work, even when buses are canceled or even when schools are closed because there's a snow day. In fact, I went to work every single one of those days that it was a snow day, and I know some of my colleagues here were tweeting about snow days and things like that. You know, and I, of course, whenever there's a reason for a snow day, we should have a snow day. I'm not speaking against snow days, but, you know, some people like myself still had to get to work. My concern about this motion is that this will mean more people, well, people with no childcare arrangements or Plan B childcare arrangements would need to take more time away from work, and this will have a negative impact on specifically low-income families, single-parent families, and adverse effects on women in the workforce specifically. And for those reasons, unfortunately, I cannot support this motion.
Thank you, Trustee DeCrube. Trustee Davies?
I just have to make some comments. I was a single parent, and I know that full closures of schools, there might have been 4 of them in my children's career. They're in 9 and 10 now. Those days were a lot of fun. They certainly were. But more to that point, and I'm talking full school closures, even though I've never had a snow day from work. Those days were great. But the times when the buses were canceled, I was lucky. I lived very close to the school and walked my children to school. And it's more my son. Those are the days in elementary that he cherished. It was not so much learning. We went to the gym, we played some floor hockey, we watched a movie, and maybe some of those days are good for the kids. And I know they were for my son. You know, getting him to school was tough, but after a day like that, next week or so was a little easier. And I just wanted to make that comment. And, you know, and again, for the single parents out there, this will be a crushing blow because at least they have somewhere at no cost to take their kids on when the schools are open and the buses are canceled. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Davies. Trustee Marchand?
Yes, I too have to speak against your motion, sir. I think the board currently has a two-tiered response. One where we take the buses off the road, another where we are capable of shutting down the schools when it's absolutely unsafe for people to be out there driving. I heard from several parents who were put in places of financial hardship this year just from the number of closures we did have. And it's not common for people to be able to work from home and get paid. Those people who do are, you know, certainly wonderful and great, and it's nice. But we've got lots of people in Peel who 7 snow days that's 2% of their salary for the year that they would have suffered, and all in or around 1 month of time. You're going to force parents to choose between staying at home or paying the rent or feeding their children. And when this board is focused on looking at the horrible effects of, you know, poverty on the education of children and forcing our most impoverished people to make those choices, I think it's very disingenuous of the board to do so. Canceling buses isn't just because it's unsafe for the buses to be on the road. It's just really hard for us to maintain timeframes and pick up and drop off kids at street corners and over snow banks that haven't been cleared yet, which is why it's, I think, unsafe to have school buses running on those days and tough for parents to make those pickup times. But I think, as you pointed out, there's many of our parents and families that live close to the schools. And no, the schools don't need to be glorified babysitters. I think it's disingenuous to say our teachers would treat it as that either. There are other instructional things that can be done on those days and individual support that can be done. But it is a place of safety for parents. And they come to rely upon that when they buy their homes, when they get their apartments, and when they plan their commuting and their ability to work. I trust our members and facilities and within the region of Peel to make the determination of when it's safe for the schools to be open and when they need to be closed. And for that point, I think I support the status quo that's out there, which allows us for that two-tiered response. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Marchand. Student Trustee Chonkrien.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, myself and Student Trustee Oris Nadanova recently took a survey of the students at the Peel District School Board, asking them whether or not they were in favor of this motion. We managed to gather over 400 responses through polling, and over 95% of the students said that they were in favor of this motion on the basis that the majority of them felt that their safety was being compromised during their commute to school whenever buses were canceled. This leads to students having to choose between their education and their personal safety. And it is for this reason that collectively we will be voting in favor of this motion to accurately represent the voice of the students in our board. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Chonkrien. Student Trustee Oris Nadanova.
Through you, Chair. Adding on to the points that Student Trustee Chonkrien previously mentioned, our inquiry found that on days that buses are canceled in schools, attendance rates in various secondary schools drop significantly, making that day generally unproductive for teachers and students. When we engaged in discourse with the students in our board, the missed assignments and instructional time on snow days meant that the well-being of students could be compromised. To combat this, students also brought up the point that with many resources provided to make lessons and assignments available online, the loss of instructional time is not a major concern from the viewpoint of students. Students are concerned for their safety on their commute, and while there may be a number of other factors to consider when it comes to closing schools, myself and Student Trustee Chonkrien will be representing the voice of students and voting in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Kay MacDonald.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. First, I just wanted to respond to some of the comments made because on snow days, there are no new topics taught, but this can be a great opportunity to focus on areas of need for the students that do show up. And also, the kids don't have to be, the high school students don't have to be concerned about make a choice between your education and safety because no new topics are taught. The message to teachers should be that when it's absolutely unsafe, we will shut the system down. And also, canceling busing is not about always just, it's not safe to drive on the roads. A lot of times, you people are left at bus stops for very long hours, and then it becomes a health issue for little kids or elderly parents waiting to pick up their loved ones or drop them off to the bus, because they can be even an hour and a half late. Even on extremely cold days, starting buses are an issue. But to me, what is paramount is that it's the poorest and most marginalized members of the community that will suffer if 6 other trustees agree with this motion. Schools, while serving as learning institutions, also act, quite simply put, as a safe place for parents to leave their children. When schools are closed, it is set into motion a slew of events that often can devastate the poorest of the poor. These repercussions hit the children at risk and most marginalized families the hardest. When a parent that is precariously employed has to take a day off of work to be at home with her child or children due to school closures, it usually means a paycheck that is severed. It is several dollars short at the end of the month. This parent, who is already living paycheck to paycheck, and in some cases payday loan to payday loan, is now faced with the unenviable task of deciding what gets cut, feeding the children a nutritious meal or keeping the heat on. To the privileged in society or to the families that have a network of support, snow days may be a mere inconvenience. It means heading out a few minutes earlier to drop off children to grandma's house. Many members in my wards do not have such luxuries for a myriad of reasons. The bottom line is that in my ward, we will be disproportionately affected by school closures. When the weather is bad, hospitals still need doctors, nurses, technicians, and the janitorial staff to show up. Banks still have to keep their tills open, rain or shine. The jails and courthouses don't shut down. The restaurants need cooks and servers to be present. Even when there is freezing rain outside, my husband gets up and he has to take the GO train downtown. Members of the service industry and staff of retail stores will still need to serve their customers, even if the numbers are low. Employees still have to show up and work. Warehouses still have products which needs to be moved as soon as possible. Hairdressers, barbers, you name it, workers are expected they have to show up for work. Why should our staff be any different? When I think that the effect it has on staff that are not permanent employees of this board, a vast majority of staff that are not permanent on this board will be losing out on their salary. We need to show up and let their voices be heard. Each and every day, employees all across Ontario and Canada have to go to work despite inclement weather. Why should our employees have different attendance expectations? If the board decides that the roads are too dangerous for school buses to transport the students to school, parents should have an option to get their children to school if they are able. If it means they have to leave a little bit earlier to get to work, then so be it. It may mean they'll have to find someone to drop off or pick up their child. But in the end, it means that this parent can still maintain an ability to earn and feed their family. Most small business and private sector companies still require workers to come to work. It doesn't matter if they're late, but they have to show up. So by shackling our vulnerable families to school closures, we are not living up to our mission and vision as a board. Parents and community members are watching what we do as a board. So I'm urging my colleagues not to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald.
Thank you. I think we learned about intentions, and I think this motion has a lot of good intentions, but it also has some thought about intentions and things that we don't want to happen. Obviously, my colleagues have shared some of them. I think I was told 30% of our students are bused. That means 70% aren't. And yes, the disparity of rural versus urban and regional program or not kind of stuff. I think the one thing that I haven't heard, other than the economic side of things, is when we cancel schools, so do daycares. And then that means everyone has to look for stuff. And it hits even a bigger swath of our community. And we've heard the marginalized, low income, are put at a disadvantage. Yeah, I could work from home, but a lot of people don't have that choice. It's okay when you get sick, you're dealing with one child. Now we've got suddenly a whole community that's looking for daycare, and that becomes very problematic. So as much as I'd like to, and understand the merit of the motion, and I just don't think the consequences that it's going to put onto our community is worth it, but I appreciate the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald. Trustee Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't got much to say, but I'm just going to put a 2 cent in, and I'm going to plug this in. And Trustee Crocker, I thank you for the intent of the motion. And I tell you, if this was for close the high school, I'd vote for it in a second. But I serve a area in Brampton that has a poverty area and a lot of single parents. A lot of the kids dealing with so much mental health issue, and you name it. I'm not going to get into all the detail. But I think we had 3 snow days where all our system was closed recently. And I'm going to say this publicly, and I could end up getting in trouble. But because the system was closed, I had to write a check for $500 to help a single parent in my community to pay a rent because she couldn't go to work. And for that alone, I can't support this motion. And I said to her, the next time we have a snow day, I will make sure my office is open. Bring your kids. I'll make sure one of my staff is here so you can go to work. Because when she came and she broke down in tears, shared her story as a single mom with 3 kids, and that she was gonna, and actually she is in low income housing, and she was gonna be put out because her paycheck was gonna be short, because she was living from paycheck to paycheck. For that reason, my heart goes out to my colleagues who have a good intention, but the parents that I represent come first. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Green. Trustee Sohi.
I actually have a question to the financial department here, kind of a one step further. We all talk about the budgets, and we are so responsible to make sure that where our money is going. So what implication or impact this will have on our finances? Probably just Paul will answer.
Just Associate Director Gill is looking for.
Associate Director Gill.
Yeah. Through you, Madam Chair, there is no impact on our bottom line, I would say. There may be some possible savings in teacher coverage, but at the same time, on the same day, we do have to call in some of our other staff to make sure that our school sites are safe for our staff and students for the next day. So there's some additional cost there. So I will say overall, there are no savings because of closing the schools due to the inclement weather.
So to my understanding, through your chair, that there may be an extra cost actually because we will be paying time and a half to the janitorial staff to come in and clean the sites.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's exactly what I mentioned, that we do have to call some other staff, mostly our facilities folks who will have to come in and regardless of whether the system has been closed, so we have to call them in and pay them then overtime to make sure our sites are safe for staff and students for the next day. So there is some additional cost.
Through Chair, thank you. Thank you so much for clarifying that.
Thank you, Trustee Sohi. Thank you, Associate Director Gill. And Trustee Benjamin.
Through you, Chair, I would like to just echo the sentiments expressed by all the other trustees. I just want to say that there will be a chain reaction because I have a 15-month-old grandson, and they have given us specific instructions because the daycare is just down the road from here on Matheson, and they said if Peel District School Board is closed, please don't bring the kid to daycare. So that was the first thing that happened this time. And secondly, you know, coming from another country where we don't face snow, but we face water, because in the monsoons we sometimes have to wade through knee-deep water. And I remember as a young kid, we would go to school even though there were floods, you know, right up to our waist. And we enjoyed it. But this being Canada, you know, we have to learn to deal with the snow. And I think that we have to learn to deal with the situation. And also there's the other option, while the, you know, the permanent staff can maybe take a day off, we can maybe rely on our occasional staff to step in during, you know, such days. And I think for that reason, I will not support this motion.
Thank you, Trustee Benjamin. Trustee Andrews.
Through you, temporary chair.
Temporary Madam Chair.
Temporary Madam Chair. You know, when I you know took a look at this motion, and you know, you think of all the the different things and the different impacts around it. You know, I think it's very different for, as Trustee Green mentioned, for secondary students, because you don't have the implication of daycare, childcare, things like that. And and again, it's different. When my daughters were in high school, they loved the snow days and knew that they weren't going back to school. But at an elementary level, I think it's very different. And not to repeat everything that my fellow trustees have said. But, like I said, if it was high school, it's totally different. But, when it has such a huge impact on our elementary students, I don't think I can support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Andrews. I think that's it. Trustee Crocker, would you like to close debate?
I would, Chair Lawton. Thank you. I'll abbreviate my comments in light of what I've seen here, although Trustee McDonald talking about good intentions, I had to think about my mother, who would tell me the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I think about that often. I'm going to give the last word to a teacher who emailed me, and so these are her words. I've just edited them to depersonalize it. She says, "I'm one of many Peel staff members who live outside of Peel, so this is a very real concern. The other day," so this would have been in earlier this winter, it's a 2019 letter. "The other day, Hamilton and Halton were closed, boards which I drive through on my way to work, and I had 2 students in class. I know it's not the board's fault I choose to live so far away from work, but the risk to worker safety for almost no student benefit has never made sense to me. I wanted to reach out and share a personal experience regarding the issue with you, in case you are looking for anecdotal evidence or stories to add voice to the cause. In early January 2015, there was a bus cancellation. I believe it was for extreme temperatures and ice, but schools were open. At the time, I worked at a different school in Mississauga. After a white-knuckle black ice drive, I was just around the corner from school when I was rear-ended on the 401 overpass by a teacher from the Catholic school nearby. Our accident ended up causing 3 other accidents on that bridge in the subsequent 10 minutes. I was lucky not to be injured, but the other teacher's airbag went off, and she did suffer some injuries to her chest and major emotional distress as a result. As my admin was calling me to find out why I was late, and I asked them while standing on the side of the road at the accident scene to look out the window, I couldn't help but feel that neither myself nor the other teacher had any real reason to be on the road that day. Indeed, when I finally arrived to school badly shaken and with a damaged car, but lucky to be unhurt, I discovered I had no students show up to school that day. No students. I've certainly heard the rhetoric from people who don't work in the education field that if they have to go to work, we should have to as well. But education workers represent a significant portion of drivers on the roads in the before and after school rush. And in the case of my 2015 accident, I do believe the subsequent 3 accidents could have been avoided if we 2 teachers had needlessly been on the road that day. She thanks me again for bringing the issue forward, and if my story can be helpful in any anecdotal way, please feel to share it. I've just done that, Chair. So I ask again, while student safety trumps all other considerations to the point that we take the buses off those dangerous roads, why is it that we don't mind forcing the decision onto families, and why we certainly don't seem to mind imperiling the lives of our employees on inclement weather days? Chair, I will ask for a recorded vote.
Thank you, Trustee Crocker. I will ask all those in favor of the motion. Thank you. Those opposed? Thank you. The motion does not pass. And do you think you're going to get this back?
Thank you, and thank you, Vice Chair Lawton, for handling that. And then congratulations to everybody around the table. I would have actually laid out a few of the rules of conduct for a motion, because this was our first, I believe, as a new team. But I did, because of my position in conflict, I didn't want to say one word, so I'll say it now. Congratulations, because some of the conditions are, please, 5 minutes every time you speak. The maximum is 5 minutes. And you were very good, and you can only speak once to the issue, so you need to use your 5 minutes if you want to, but you can't come back a second time. And it was very well done, so respectfully, and thank you everyone for that. So moving on, ladies and gentlemen, 9.8 is the recommendations of the Human Resources and Negotiations Advisory Committee on March 25th. So you have this in front of you. This was an additional item just printed. And this is the motion by Trustee Kay McDonald that was referred by the board to the Human Resources and Negotiations Advisory Committee. That committee is a committee of the whole, which means that all trustees are members of the committee. The referred motion has been formally addressed now by the Human Resources and Negotiations Advisory Committee and has now been brought back to the board to address in its revised version. We now have a copy of the revised version at our desks as well. Trustee McDonald, would you like to introduce your revised motion? And do you have a seconder?
I do. I would like to introduce a motion, and Noka DeCruz, Trustee DeCruz is going to be second.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd also like a recorded vote, please.
Okay, thank you.
Whereas, based on several research reports and studies conducted, the Peel District School Board created We Rise Together, the action plan to identify, understand, minimize, and eliminate the marginalization experienced by Black male students in the Peel District School Board, and the Indigenous Education Action Plan to identify, understand, minimize, and eliminate the marginalization experienced by Indigenous students in the Peel District School Board, whereas the intentional hiring of Black and Indigenous teachers who are equipped to create inclusive teaching and learning environments that promote the intellectual engagement of Black and Indigenous students and who reflect their narratives, interests, strengths, and cultural perspectives will contribute to a learning environment that is authentic and meaningful to all students. Be it resolved that the Peel District School Board embark on a targeted recruitment initiative to hire Black and Indigenous teachers. Yeah, so go ahead. So there are countless studies, including research from our own board, that have scientifically proven that having Black teachers, even one Black teacher, can make a difference in a child going to college. Famed Johns Hopkins researcher Greg Stanley states that a low-income Black student's probability of dropping out of school if he or she has just one Black teacher in elementary school lessens by 29%. Seth Gershenson and Constance Lindsay of the American University, their research found that in high school, Black students, both boys and girls, had a much higher expectation of going to college, and they pointed to a role model effect and the high expectation that Black teachers have of Black students. Additional studies show that it's not only Black students that benefit, but all students benefit. Charge of New York University says that students of all race, white, Black, Latino, and Asian, benefit. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission has 2 calls for action that relate directly to education to make age-appropriate curriculum and provide Indigenous teaching methods in curriculum. I can tell from personal experience about the importance of Indigenous youth when they are connected to a caring Indigenous adult. A student who I'll call Tommy was having a rough go at school, and it was not until he was connected with an elder, an Indigenous teacher, and learned about his rich heritage and culture, and his self-confidence grew and his behavior virtually vanished. The human rights policies clearly states that if we know that people or systems are behaving in a manner that is discriminatory and we do nothing, then we can be held as being complicit. That is collusion, and in my opinion, a classic case of systemic anti-Black racism and anti-Indigenous racism. We should protect everyone, especially the most vulnerable. The research is clear. I have several research papers here from you, both international as well as from Canada and from within our board, that seeing yourself reflected in the classroom is important for student success. We have consulted and will continue to consult with stakeholders. The rationale is clear. Black and Indigenous students are not graduating and excelling as their peers. This is about doing what's right for our vulnerable students. Thank you.
Thank you. And so the floor is open. If you'd like to speak, activate your speaker and we'll call on you. Trustee DeCruz.
Thank you, Chair Cameron. I am very happy to be seconding this and to be supporting it. I think this is very important. This is a conversation we've been having for a long time now, even before the last election, right? It's been a while. And it's something that we needed to get a little bit more input on, and we did. I want to thank everybody who was involved in the HR committee who helped us fine-tune the motion in order to make it something that we could defend if needed. So I'm very happy to support it. I think a lot of work has gone into this. I think a lot of consultation has gone into this, and I think the research that my colleague just mentioned speaks for itself. So I won't be repetitive, and I hope that the board supports it.
Thank you. Trustee Davies. You're on.
I am. Oh.
The red light means on.
I love where this legislation is going. I really do, this motion. I have many South Asian and Oriental people in my ward, and this has been a long-standing issue going back 15 years, as long as I've been involved in talking about schools and those sorts of things. And the message those constituents gave me was, please, can we have the class picture and the staff picture line up a little better? So as I like where this motion is going, I would so like to include South Asians and Orientals as well in this legislation, because I know that they are also underserved as a percentage of staff to student ratio. And that is my stance on this. If it's going to be good for the Indigenous and the Black students and make them excel, then logic says it will also have the South Asians and the Orientals excel as well, leading to higher graduation rates and better education for everyone. So in order to support this, I really need them included. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Green.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just going to say that we have done our homework. Research upon research, report upon report has been brought to not just this board, but to other large organizations to demonstrate the need for us to take action to address the inequity that is happening within our community when it comes towards our marginalized, especially our marginalized Black male students. And this is, the research was not about various different community. This was specific and direct. And I know we had a lot of discussion at HR, and you know, because I'm chairing HR, could not speak, but I'm saying my action will speak volume to this direction and where we need to go. And as I will tell you, as the longest serving trustee sit at this table, I have seen and I've listened and I've watched report, and more report has come to this board table and nothing has done. The time is come for us to take action. The time has come for us to listen to the voice of our student, listen to the voice of our community, listen to the voice of our parents. We talk about consultation. And yes, parents' voice matter, but when our students come to us and are crying out and said, we need help, I have sit here and I've seen other groups come and ask that we need help. This will make us feel inclusive, feel that we are a part of. And this board, hack, jump, move, even bypass our own bylaws and resolution to act. Well, guess what? Tonight, we need to do something. We need to listen to our students, because our students are equal. Just like any other student that come here and ask for help, they're asking for help. Let's give them the help that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee B. McDonald.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I live in the South, and unfortunately, Chair, you've had the opportunity to visit some of my schools, and we talk about Peel being diverse. I think my schools are very diverse because you can go to each school community, each school setting, and see very different populations. And I know in the 15 years I've been in trustees, as a trustee, I've been going to my, various principals and talking about, do they hire teachers that are reflective of their community, and similar to the lines of what Trustee Davies has talked about. It's hard, especially when you're only hiring 300 teachers when we have 12,000 to change overnight. But I can say, I've seen a lot of change over the 15 years, which I'm very helpful. But this motion only talks about 2 of the communities that I have many in my ward. And I find it very difficult to support a motion that doesn't include all of them, because the parents will come to me and says, why can't I have my face reflected in the staff? And, Trustee McDonald's research is right. If you have people reflective, of the staff reflective of the community, they will exceed better because they're role models and what have you. And it's not just related to just 2 groups, it's related to all. And if we look at the numbers in Peel, because we have them, Peel's composed of 50% South Asian, and we only have 15% in our staff. If you look at the Black, it's 15% in the community and only 7%. If we look at Asian, and which is different groups in there, there's all different groups in that as well. It's a bigger difference as well. So I think and I've asked trustees to look at changing it to make it a uniform across all, to be more reflective of our board population and community. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And I can't support this motion because I represent all members of my community, and I think they all deserve the same kind of equal treatment to have their representation in the school. And it's not a big change to request. I don't know why it can't be done, that we just say that we change the hiring for all groups. Anyway, I can't support the motion that only goes halfway. As for We Rise, I'm very supportive. I was part of the previous board that supported this motion and continue it. I have been asking for and wanting more kind of support and resources to be put into it to address some of my schools that I see very high needs, especially around poverty and other stuff that can really help parents and students succeed, because that's what we're here for, student success. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Trustee Marchant.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I too represent everybody in my community as well, but I find that argument a little unfair. These 2 specific groups are named very specifically. Young Black men are being treated horribly by our educational system in this country. Their graduation rates are remarkably lower than any other group within the population. They are suspended and expelled at a much greater rate than any other group in this population. They have police called on them into schools for behaviors that other students are apologized to for. Our Indigenous youth are killing themselves at record numbers in our country. We picked these 2 specific groups because these 2 specific groups are horribly marginalized and disenfranchised within our communities. So I have no problem supporting a motion that specifically targets 2 groups that need special attention. There's nothing in this motion that keeps us from looking at fair hiring practices to better reflect our community across the board, and to reflect upon other groups that may be marginalized in the future or who come with us with specific concerns. There's nothing saying in here we're ignoring the other problems, but I think it's about time that we as a group of adults responsible for the kids in this community take responsibility for what we have been ignoring and failing to act on for quite some time. So to that end, I strongly support this, Chair, and thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Crocker.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, I would say that the supporters of this motion have made a lot of sense thus far. They've made a very good case. And I agree with them. Back to intentions, I respect the intention. I think in this case that good intentions are going to take us to a good place. I continue, nonetheless, to be concerned about where it might go, because I'm not convinced that the depth and breadth of consultation which should have taken place indeed did take place. So I'm going to look at this as a work in progress, that this is something that we might have to tweak. I hope we don't have to backtrack on anything. We might have to make some additions to it. I don't know. I don't know. But for now, I will support it based on the good intentions and the good case made by its supporters.
Thank you. Trustee Benjamin?
Through you, Chair, I believe in being proactive and bringing about positive change. I will support this as it will result in helping our young Black and Indigenous students to be more successful. But as pointed out by Trustee Davis and Trustee McDonald, we have other ethnic groups too. But we need to start somewhere, and I'm sure the change will follow. What we need to do is begin this, put this motion, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Sohi?
Through you, Chair, thank you. Our community is only as strong as its weakest and marginalized group, along with the racial groups, are looked after and included in all aspects in our society. So I understand that here we are talking about our marginalized Black youth and Indigenous students, so I'm in full support. But I also want to open the floor, the discussion when we are talking about the racialized groups, like how they want to see themselves reflected in the staff. And I'm in the support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Student Trustee Oris Nadenova?
Thank you, Chair. The debate has opened up quite a few interesting points, but I'd like to say that as a representative of a very diverse community, I am wholly in support of any motion that would allow students to see themselves represented in their own community. And I think that this motion is very good in presenting students how they should see themselves and will definitely encourage a very diverse and multifaceted community. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Andrews?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I agree that the motion is very well intentioned, and however, there are other voices out there, and Peel is a very diverse community, and I strongly feel that this motion should include all marginalized students, not just focus on two areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers who have not spoken yet? Okay, Trustee McDonald, would you like to close debate?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So basically, in closing my debate, I'm just going to comment on some of the some of the comments that were made. This is important for my colleagues to realize that this motion seeks to serve and address the marginalization of our students. All Peel students are not marginalized. I'm addressing the students at the bottom of the totem pole. This is not about addressing equitable hiring. It's about intentional hiring to address the fact that Black and Indigenous students are doing far worse than their peers. South Asian students, Oriental students are not failing and not graduating at 40% dropout rate. They don't have that. As trustees, you have been going to graduations and you see this. You look at who are getting the awards, who are the valedictorians, who are thriving in our system. Our associate director, who is South Asian, will be the first. Pauline Grewal was one of the first, and she will stand loud and tell you that as a South Asian person, she can tell you, these are not the kids that are marginalized when it comes to how they're treated in our boards. They are not getting suspended for 20 days for saying the F word, whilst their other counterparts just get a tap on the shoulder and they're sometimes ignored. Students do not deserve equal treatment. Each student needs the treatment that is going to help them to be the best that they can be. Having this initiative utilizes a special section of the Human Rights Policy. Equitable hiring is a different part of this policy. I'm invoking a part of the policy that speaks to the fact that when a problem has been identified, we are addressing that issue. I have total confidence in Jamie and his team. He has been my superintendent when I first started this board. He has now moved on to other roles. I know he will do the necessary consultation to execute this project. We need to look at the students that are failing in our system. Who are the most vulnerable and at-risk students? They are Black, they are Indigenous, and I know as you trustees go to graduation, you see this. My colleague, on another motion, said that if its benefits, an initiative benefits one student, the money was worth it to her. We did not consider that every student needed that concession. I urge my colleagues to remember that equality is not equity. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes debate on this motion, and a recorded vote has been requested. So, trustees, I'm going to call the vote and asking you to stand if you are in favor of this motion. Please stand now. All those opposed, please stand. Thank you. The motion carries. Sorry. Oh, any abstain? I think we had everybody standing out of 12, right? Yes, so no abstains. Thank you, and the motion carries. Thank you, everyone, again. Item 10 is reports from officials and staff. 10.1 is naming of new schools. We have the report and recommendation for the naming of our board's two newest elementary schools before us. Trustee Sohi, will you move this report? Thank you. And Trustee Davies, will you second this, please? With honor. And are there any questions or comments from trustees on this item? Yes. Trustee DeCroop.
Thank you, Chair Cameron. I'm very happy to see this coming our way today. And I remember when we first started the conversation about diversifying our school names, must have been a couple of years ago. And I'm really happy to see that that's the direction that we are going in. I specifically wanted to speak because I wanted to thank Director Pereira, who I think would be responsible for this, right? Be submitted by, yeah, Carla Pereira. But she's not here. So thank you to Director Pereira. I hope she's enjoying whatever she's doing. But yeah, I'm really happy to see this, and I hope that we continue to do some of that so that our students continue to see themselves reflected. Again, we're talking about making sure our students see themselves reflected, not just in the classrooms, but also on the buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the report is here for our receipt. All in favor? I think this was, can you have a look? Is that for approval or receipt? It's receipt. It's receipt. Yeah, we went through this beforehand. This is for receipt. And so let's do it again and make sure that we're on the same page. All in favor of this for receipt? Thank you. Carries. Now we're going to move to item 12. 12 on the agenda, which is reports from Ontario Public School Boards Association. 12.1 is the OPSPA Connects report from February 26th. 12.2 is the OPSPA Connects report from March 4th. 12.3 is OPSPA Connects report from March 11th. And 12.4 is the OPSPA Connects report from March 18th. Trustee Green, will you move these? Thank you. Trustee Andrews, will you second them? Thank you. And are there any questions or comments? All in favor? Thank you. Go to item 14 now, which is the response of administration to former questions. Item 14.1 is the response to questions asked by Trustee Crocker at the February 26, 2019 board meeting regarding air conditioning in classrooms and buses and the extreme heat protocol. The response is here for our receipt. Trustee Crocker, will you move this to the floor? Thank you. And Trustee Marchant, will you second it? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Trustee Crocker.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank Controller Chung and Superintendent Harmon and Associate Directors Dowling and Gill for their work on this. I wish to reiterate that these are three questions that came to me and Trustee Brad McDonald and Trustee DeCrube collectively, a group of parents who live in an area where we share jurisdictions. I was able to give them a brief answer saying that I really didn't think we were going to be funded for any of this, but they went back and talked about it and really wanted to get a more detailed answer, and have already forwarded it to them. And again, thanks to all for their assistance in this matter.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? This is here for our receipt. All in favor? Thank you. Carries. Item 15, are there any reports from trustee representatives on councils or associations? Trustee Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to bring to the attention of my colleagues and everyone that the Ontario School Board Association is planning a day of advocacy in terms of the agenda of the ministry and the government direction. And this will be on April the 8th. We will be meeting at the Ontario School Board office downtown. And there's a strategy in place, and then we're heading to Queen's Park. I know it's HR evening, but somebody have to bring the message along on behalf of this board. So as the trustee that represent this board at the executive level, I will be going, and I'm inviting our chair to come along with me so that we can go down and make our voice be heard and share our concern. Hopefully somebody will be listening, because so far over the last 3 meetings that we have, that we invited people from the ministry to come out, and so we could build better relationship and understand how we work with the government, and it seems like nobody's listening. So hopefully if we make enough noise that somebody will listen, but we have to start someplace. So I'm going down. Thank you. And anybody wants to give me a horn that I can toot, please send it along.
Thank you. Trustee DeCrube.
Just a question. What time is this get-together?
Well, so
Yep. Push your button. There you go.
So what I'll do, I can send you. I know we're meeting at the Ontario School Board office at 2:30.
Okay.
Because there's some strategy that we'll be going over. But I can send that out to all my colleagues. I know that they plan to arrive at Queen's Park at about, I think it was 5 in the evening.
Okay.
But I can go back and look at the detail and I can share it with you.
Please, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Trustee K. McDonald.
Thank you. I'm reporting on behalf of the Peel Safe and Active Routes to School Committee. And just to let everybody know that the Bike to School Week this year, the packages are out to the school. And so far, our board, we're leading the pack in terms of the number of schools that are participating. So you can look for that. And we have shifted the time because we want to start early also in September. So we get bicycling happening in September as well. And we have our spring initiative that will be rolled out. So stay tuned for more details. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other updates or reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 16, which is comments and questions from board members. We'll start with our amazing student trustees. Trustee Choncrian. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, I have the absolute pleasure and privilege to let you all know myself and Human Impact Environment. We have 3 members sitting in the public just now. Do you guys want to give away? A community organization dedicated towards environmentally friendly practices, along with Human Impact Harold Brathwaite, are proud to announce to you all the 2019 Earth Week Conference taking place right here at the board office. This conference aims to give Peel Secondary School students an opportunity to learn about environmental action and eco-friendly practices. I'd like to extend this invitation to all board trustees and all senior staff. This event will be taking place on April 1st from 4 to 8 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Oris Nadenova. Trustee Crocker. Trustee Benjamin.
Through you, Chair, I just want to share something, maybe a couple of things with everybody. Visiting schools is always an exciting event for me, as I get to see the enthusiasm of the staff and students and share their successes and their dreams. And what makes these visits interesting is that every school is different. I still have many more schools to visit, but today I'd like to speak about my visit to Cooksville Creek Public School because I saw something that I have not seen anywhere else in my ward so far. Most schools have the calming room to provide some space for students who need to take a break for a variety of reasons. The Cooksville Creek Public School also has the chill zone, as the students have named it, where they can really chill out on the bean bags and cushions while dealing with their anxieties or behaviors. However, the Snowzillen room is what caught my attention. Snowzillen, or multisensory environments, are relaxing spaces designed to help reduce agitation and anxiety. The principal and staff collaborated to turn a tiny corner of their school into a great Snowzillen room to be used as therapy for students with autism and developmental disabilities. It is definitely worth a visit. Secondly, I would like to speak about the STEMs to Success event held on March 2nd at Ridgewood Public School, and this was a Saturday. The chair, Stan Cameron, also attended the event. It included resource displays by community organizations, a panel conversation mainly for parents and children from the elementary schools, and activities for students, and it ended with lunch. Thanks to the Malton Neighborhood Services who coordinated the event. The third report for today is the Mayor's International Women's Day Breakfast on 8 March from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. This year, 2 female students and 1 teacher from all the schools in Mississauga were invited to take part in roundtable discussions on the theme, Balance for Better. At each table, there was an elected woman representative from the many wards in Mississauga, including myself and Ms. DeKroob. On my recommendation, our 2 young student trustees were also invited, but only Ms. Naidanova could attend. The Mayor of Mississauga, Bonnie Crombie, and the keynote speaker, the Honorable Jean Augustine, gave inspiring talks about their own personal experiences as women and how they climbed the ladder of success from humble beginnings. It ended with a photo session with the mayor and the guest of honor. And at the end of the event, most of us took time to enjoy the panoramic view of Mississauga from the 12th floor of City Center Drive, where the breakfast was held. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Some wonderful things happening, but you now owe $2.
No, I have to start my account.
I was hoping you were going to mention the name of every school in Mississauga at one point. We will fill the coffers, but thank you. Yes, Trustee K. McDonald.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. First, I just wanted to congratulate my colleague, Trustee Sohi, on winning the ICACI Women Achievers Award. Congratulations. And also, I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to the staff, that school support staff, to Mark and his team that, have supported one of my schools through a very difficult time. I'm sure most of you heard about the tragic plane crash that took the lives of 2 of our students. And they actually initially were at El Dorado, and then one went to another school. And during that time, when the staff was dealing with that, at that particular school, they dealt with 6 deaths in that school community. And the support that was provided to the staff, the students, family members, all different levels of basically our Peel District School Board family that have been affected by such tragedy in a week. It was incredible. So thank you to School Support Services for that just outstanding work, and the employees, the students, the families have really appreciated it. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Andrews?
Canada Computers, located in Brampton, won an Intel Score with Core competition that they run every year. And the stipulation is that they have to choose a school to give the money to, the prize money to. And it was $25,000. So fortunately for us, a few of the staff for Canada Computer were also Chinguacousy Secondary School alumni. So the $25,000 was awarded to Chinguacousy Secondary School. So it was a great event. I was there with both the principal and the 2 VPs, and it was a very prideful moment for them, and they were quite happy to accept the $25,000. They haven't officially decided how they're going to spend the money, but rest assured it will be put to good use and benefit the students at Chinguacousy Secondary School. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
That's very awesome.
Mhm.
Yes, how about that? So maybe with that $25,000, they could help you put 1 in here for saying that name. Trustee Davies? No, Trustee Vice Chair Lawton? This side, Trustee DeKroob? Trustee Marchant, yes.
Yes, just a final remember to all the trustees, the Parent Involvement Committee Symposium is this weekend. So please check your emails, your calendars, and make sure you'll be there if you can. Thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee B. McDonald? No. Trustee Sohi? Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to share my experience. I was invited by one of the principals at Fern Forest Public School. So they actually started this initiative almost 7 years ago with the Brampton City, and the social workers were a big part of it, to have this family fun night at Brampton Soccer Center. And there are also now 2 more schools, Great Lakes Public School and Larkspur School. This year, 300 plus families were there and with their kids for 3 hours. It was an amazing event, and I think if we can share this with the other schools, and this is a great way to connect to the community, to engage with the community and the parents. And I just felt it was a lot of energy, and the kids didn't want to go home after. And the kids were asking if we can have more of these days in collaboration with the city and with the social workers. Thank you.
It's the right title, Family Fun. You know, nice. And that'll be $3 for your family fun story, please. And Trustee Green? No, thank you. Item 17 is public question period. Are there any questions from the public? Seeing none, moving to item 18, which is further business. Trustees, is there anything else we need to address? No, thank you. Item 19 is the adoption of the in-committee reports. Trustee Benjamin, will you put them on the floor? Thank you. Trustee B. McDonald, will you second them? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks. And adjournment. Ladies and gentlemen, just before we move to adjourn, I'd like to thank everyone here for choosing to participate in public education in Peel. And we will be back here on Tuesday, April the 9th. Vice Chair Lawton, will you move to adjourn? And will you second that, Trustee DeCroop? All in favor? Thank you, everyone.